All right, folks, you're still watching the live feed. Thank you. And you should probably get up and stretch your legs a little bit, go get something to drink, perhaps pee. This is still Quakecon. This is day 3, 2012 Quakecon. I have sitting right over here Tom of Eternal Fate. Now, this is a very cool game that they're demoing out here this year. So tell us, of course, a little bit about the game.
Cool. So my name's Tom Mustaine. I'm the CEO of a company called Escalation Studios in Dallas, Texas. And we announced a new game called Eternal Fate. And we actually just, for the very first time, announced on the first day of QuakeCon and are actually showing it at the show. So we've got a booth with about 6 little computers. And so what Eternal Fate is if you've played a Diablo or Torchlight-style game and have always wanted PvP, and a lot of those games haven't delivered a good PvP or any PvP in the last couple of years. We've actually been building this game for about a year. We're an independent developer, so we started working on a game that's Diablo-style, Torchlight-style from the perspective. That's a PvP-focused and oriented game for your Mac and PC that actually has elements from shooters in it. So like Call of Duty, Battlefield, Team Fortress-style elements from shooters. And I can go into specifics about what those elements are and how we've modified the game a bit to merge these two genres kind of together.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about how you mix them.
Yeah, so the first thing is when you're playing, like, I'll use an MMO for an example, like World of Warcraft. You play WoW, right? So one of the interesting challenges about WoW is when you're playing that game, if you don't level with your friends and you don't stay in level with them, they get ahead of you, right? Yeah, and it's really frustrating because I'm enjoying myself in Battlegrounds or I'm enjoying myself in the regular campaign, and then they're gone and I can't play with them anymore. And it drives people away. But one of the interesting things about, and that happens in RPGs, people level away from each other.
Star Wars Galaxies was bad about that too.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's a real interesting challenge, but you don't see that in shooters. You don't see that in first-person shooters because the whole idea of leveling and kind of RPG elements is relatively new to shooters, right? You look at games like Borderlands, you look at games like even Call of Duty nowadays, or Battlefield, you have leveling. But you really don't level away from each other. You can still play with people at the same level. So we're actually applying those kind of mechanics back to an RPG. So we're adding more shooter elements instead of adding more RPG elements. So as you play the game, you do level up, but it's a leveling curve that unlocks gear and weapons and abilities, very similar to what you get like a Team Fortress. So you play and you unlock things, but the damage curves stay flat-ish. So, and I say ish for another reason, but I'll tell you in a second. So the damage curves are flat, meaning that you can play with anyone that's any level at any time, and you're all able to play together, just like in a shooter.
You've got this sword, and this guy's got the same sword, and he's level this, and you're level that. Sword does the same damage.
Sword does the same damage. There are some modifiers too when I say level-ish. If you look at a game, I'll use Call of Duty as an example, or even Battlefield. As you level up, you get obviously more gear for your weapons. You get more gear for your players, more perks, abilities, affordances. We have the same thing in Eternal Fate. So we have multiple character classes. We have 3 different core character classes, different races, over 1 billion combinations of weapons, gear, and all that kind of stuff. But as you level up, you get access to more stuff, similar to like in Call of Duty. You start with a basic weapon, and then as a higher, more legacy player, you get access to cooler stuff like scopes and higher detail things that make you a little bit better, but only a few % better. You're not like 5 or 6% better. You're not so high up you're going to blow everybody away, but a few % difference makes a one-on-one encounter kind of a little bit different, and it has some skill components to it. That's what we do in Eternal Fate as well. So as you unload, as you create gear and add them to your loadouts, and add weapons and abilities and perks and kill streaks to your loadouts, each encounter that you have, you're basically customizing your character for things like a stealth build or a crowd control build, or so if you're running objectives, a speed build, things like that. And when you fight with somebody, you're paper to their rock kind of thing, right? So you can, when you die, you respawn with you have your character, but you can respawn with different loadouts, which loads out different gear, loads out different spells, and yeah. So it's kind of a different take on the kind of PvP content that you'd see in a game like this, which right now you're not seeing a lot of PvP in this kind of game, which is we think is kind of frustrating. But at the same time, it allows you to play together all the time, which is a kind of a cool thing I think is pretty unique.
That's wonderful. Tell us a little bit about the game world.
So the game world is pretty interesting. From an art perspective, if you look at the game, I'm glad you say that. We've been looking at it in our tiny little tunnel vision for so long. We've been keeping very quiet about it. But what we did is we took inspiration from our favorite kind of old school classic console RPGs like A Link to the Past, Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, Secret of Mana, games that look more classic console. They're colorful. They're more colorful. They're more kind of I don't say approachable is the wrong word, but they have a particular look to them. It's not retro, but it's if you took those styles and took them into today, and not weify. You actually took them into today. So we actually have a game. Our towns are persistent. Your character is persistent. The town looks like something that's got trees and contents kind of on a little bit of a grid. It looks almost like a Link to the Past level in Zelda. And then when you go in and play in your multiplayer maps with other players, there's other inspirations from games like that. So the world itself is really big and robust. There's a lot of game content there. For a small studio like ourselves, we've actually built a really big game. And our PvP component's really the first part of it we're going to launch. We're going to announce more really cool stuff coming up that are not part of what we're doing right now, but the stuff we're going to add in when people buy the game. So we're really excited about it, and we're doing. I think we're doing cool stuff.
Tell us a little bit about the actual company. You said you're a small company.
Yeah.
How many games have you produced, actually?
Oh, good Lord. We've actually put out probably about 15 or 16 different games over the last 5 years. We started back in 2007.
Any titles we'd be familiar with?
Maybe. We worked on a couple. We kind of fast followed with the technology at the time. So, and we've got our studios full of veteran game developers that have worked on everything from Borderlands to Call of Duty to World of Warcraft to Doom to, I mean, we've got people that have worked on a lot of the big brands. The first game we worked on was a Wii title called Samba de Amigo, which you're shaking maracas.
We own that game.
Nice. All right. Very cool. That's us. That's us.
Cool.
We partnered with Gearbox Software and brought Samba back to the mix, and that was a fun one. We always try and inject, with all the titles we do for other people, and even our own, we try and inject something unique to each one of those titles. So like Samba de Amigo, we were the first company to do downloadable content on the Wii. So we had songs you could download. We were the first company to do third-party Miis. We were the first company to do 2 Wiimotes so you could shake them at the same time. And after that, the iPhone got really interesting, and we started working on stuff on the iPhone. We did a game called Dr. Awesome, Microsurgeon MD with a company called NG Moco. We were the first game company to ever use your contact list as your players. So you'd go in and play the game, you're a doctor and you're trying to cure viruses, and it would name the characters that were the patient being admitted after your contacts. So we had people writing us, I killed my mom last night because you guys admitted her and I couldn't stop the virus, and it was cool and it was a neat little feature. And then we did a Doom Resurrection.
You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we worked with id Software and we built Doom Resurrection on the iPhone.
I own that.
Nice. It was the first .3 lit iPhone game. Mm-hmm. Apple was really big and behind it, and we kind of made Doom into a rail shooter experience, which was pretty fun. And over the time, we've worked on a couple of other products. We worked on an Inception game, which was actually part of a Facebook game with Christopher Nolan and his crew. We actually helped id Software do the multiplayer, part of the multiplayer components for Rage. We built the multiplayer code that ended up driving the id Tech 5 multiplayer engine that made Rage multiplayer happen. And of course, we'll make multiplayer happen in other future id technologies, which is pretty cool. Most recently, the one I could talk about is we did a game called Midway Arcade on iOS. And Midway Arcade was we worked with Warner Brothers, and that game is basically all the old classic arcades that you remember from back in the day. It's everything. Warner Brothers bought the rights to Midway. We got Defender, Gauntlet, Spy Hunter,
awesome,
Joust.
I love all those.
Yeah, and it was on iOS and iPad, and it was #1 at the App Store for about 2 or 3 months. So we were pretty proud of that one. And
very cool.
So we've been working on a lot of that kind of stuff, but at the same time, we've kept our roots in the kind of PC Mac space. And working on iOS is fun, it's cool, and Android is fun and cool, but our developers have always had a passion to keep working in this space, and so we've been building very slowly and meticulously this game Eternal Fate over the last year or so, and it's very small start, but we ended up building this whole back end that allows for your characters to be persistent. We built on top of this engine that's a pretty elaborate engine that allows us to do, on the PC, it looks really good. We've got .3 normal maps and SSO lighting, and it looks really fancy and awesome, like the dynamic lights, and so we're, it's 100% us, just a little game company that we put all our own money back into it, and
that's wonderful.
That kind of leads to the next topic, which for me is Kickstarter.
That's right.
Yeah.
They have a Kickstarter campaign.
Yeah, so what Kickstarter does for us, so we've already built a lot of this game, but what we do with Kickstarter is I want to involve you guys in this game. It's a PvP game, and what's important about that is that we need people to play it. We want people to actually be able to play this game and check it out, and I'm so excited. It actually gives me a little goosebumps thinking about this, because we've shown the game the last 3 days, and we've never shown it to anybody else before, and we've had people come back and play again and again and again. And it's kind of, we tell it to people what it is, and they're like, they look at us kind of funny, and then we say, okay, you can play it like Diablo, you can use point and click, or you can use WASD controls like WSAD, and they get all excited and get in there, and then we have other people come in, I don't like playing like that, they play like Diablo. So we're always kind of catering those two audiences, but people come back and play it more and more. But we need to put it in front of people and have people play it. And so what we're doing is a closed beta program. and we want to have a long runway with our closed beta program. What the Kickstarter allows us to do is get people in. It keeps our team at the same size working on the closed beta, where we can have people play the game, contribute to the game, and if you kickstart it, you become immediately you can access the closed beta, which comes out in about a month, and of course you get the game when it comes out, which is probably going to be this next quarter. So this year is what we're targeting. If we miss the Kickstarter, which I hope we don't, but I'd love to get more people supporting us because we're just a small shop. If we miss it, we're still going to put Eternal Fade out. It's going to take us longer,
Right.
Probably a lot longer, because we have to do it at a small piece at a time. So
Cool.
Definitely, I have a link that's just Bitly. You guys know Bitly, Bitly.com, Kickstart-EF. So I think it's going to be in the actual link for this video, but
yes.
Check it out, please, and look at the video. The game looks really good in there. We're going to be putting some more updates from Quakecon into it, and we're really excited about it, and thankfully a lot of other people have seen it and been excited about it too, which makes me feel really good.
Yeah, it's going to be a cool game. All right. Said your name is Tom Mustaine?
Tom Mustaine, yep.
All right, so I'm going to ask you.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
Any relation?
You know what? What's funny, I've been asked that my whole life.
Uh-huh.
And
we're talking about Dave Mustaine of
from
Megadeth.
Megadeth, yeah. I've been asked that my whole life, and I didn't know the answer. And then I own Mustaine.com. TomMustaine.com. I own Mustaine.com. I got a phone call one day from a really mad guy. He's like, "Can I cuss on this or no?" Like, I'm
sure.
He was cussing at me like, "You squat my domain, you beep beep," like he's screaming at me. I'm like, "Who the hell are you, dude?" And he's like, "This is Dave Mustaine." I'm like, okay, this is one of my friends trolling me, right? No, it was Dave Mustaine. And he's like, "Well, who the hell are you?" I'm like, "Well, I'm Tom Mustaine." He's like, "Oh, wait a minute," because he just got done busting some other kid that was squatting his DaveMustaine.com, so he was in the mode to squash people.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, all right. So we're talking, and he's like, "Oh, well, what's your family background?" And we started talking, and we talked a little bit, and he hooked me up with someone in his family that has their side of the family tree, and then I've got a person in my family that has my side of the family tree, and we go back 4 generations.
Here we go, folks.
4 generations is where we meet up. So we are related. We're like 15th cousins or whatever. And I actually got a chance to meet him at an event. I bought some tickets for a friend of mine to a event called Gigantour, where it's like Megadeth and Korn and a bunch of other weird bands.
Right.
And I went up in line and got in line to go meet up with Dave Mustaine. And we talked on the phone, then we kind of fell off. And I got in line, and he was signing autographs, And I took my driver's license. I didn't have anything for him to sign. And I said, "Hey, man, how's it going?" And he stands up, and he's like, "Uh-oh, I'm about to get punched," right? Because I didn't give him the domain. I'm like, "I'm about to get punched by Dave Mustaine." Woo! It was awesome. And he stands up, and he's like, "What's up, brother?" And he gives me a big hug. And I'm like, "Oh, this is awesome and so weird at the same time." So he gives me a big hug, and we got to go behind stage. So I gave my friend a birthday present. He wanted to see Dream Theater, which was there as well. And we got to go behind stage and watch his favorite band from there. And I hung out with Dave a bit. And he's a really cool guy. We've talked about stuff a couple of times, and just kind of falls off the radar. But it's cool. Yeah. So yeah.
That's very cool.
Short. Yes, there's some relation, but it's a long ways back.
Well, see, folks, there's a reson why I ask these ridiculous questions.
That's a good question. I like
as soon as I heard that name, I was like, man, he's gotten some grief over that before.
Awesome.
He has. All right, so once again, give them all the pertinent information, websites, Kickstarter.
Yep, so EscalationStudios.com is the company. The website, if you go to EternalFate.com, it has a link to the Kickstarter, has a link to our forums. Please come and join us. And if you go to the Kickstarter, just look up Eternal Fate on Kickstarter. You'll find it there. Please back us. It's even a little bit counts. It makes a big difference, and we won't disappoint you.
Awesome. All right, folks, right out of the mouth of Tom Mustaine, the one and only Tom Mustaine.
Nice.
All right, folks, I am still Cyberpunk. This is still QuakeCon 2012. Stay tuned, folks.
Thanks.